My name is Pete O's. I am the director of the feature film The True Beauty of Being Bitten by a Tick, and I am here at the Mammoth Lakes Film Festival. So my film is a feature-length psychological thriller, sort of comedy, creepy movie about a woman who goes upstate, gets bit by a tick, and weird stuff starts to happen. So I have a quite specific process for how I make movies. It always comes from a location. For this film, it was this house that my friend and collaborator Callie Hernandez was renting upstate on the East Coast. And that location inspired this idea of the fear of ticks. And so I brought 4 collaborator artists to this house. And together we wrote the movie, shot it chronologically, and wrote it while we made it. So my way of making movies is really all about having very low stakes and high kind of creative risks, so that the fun of filmmaking can be had. When I first visited this house, it was May of 2023, and we shot the movie in August of 2023. So a pretty quick turnaround from just like the initial idea existing. There wasn't a script. We go into production with half of an outline. It's part of just like the thrill of being together with collaborators, trying to come up with ideas, trying to solve creative problems, trying to find things that are interesting, and really just enjoying that process. It's process over product. So everything about this whole process is about low stakes. So like budget is basically non-existent. It's like we are spending basically no money, just being excited by the challenge of using the resources that we have in front of us so that this thing that we make, this film, doesn't have to be a product that it has to exist within capitalism to like justify its existence. If you spend tens of hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, it needs to make money or it's just created too deep of a hole and you know, like it needs to, or else it's going to break a bunch of other people's, the systems with which they exist. So everything from like the length of time that we shoot the movie, which is only 2 weeks, to like the small amount of money that's getting spent on it, to like the low imprint that we're just making on the world. The way we do costumes is we just go to a thrift store on the first day and I have the actors shop in character. So like the costumes just end up being like reused. Like we are recycling clothes from a thrift store as opposed to like going to Target and buying a bunch of like new clothes and buying multiples of them and having them wear those things. So it's like all like trying to create a healthy way to make a movie. Once upon a time, making films cost a lot of money because technologically the human power required to move all this heavy equipment around to like manifest these imaginary worlds was just cost prohibitive. Like it required all those resources. What technology has allowed is that things are lighter, things are cheaper, things are smaller. And what that means is like filmmaking can kind of be a hobby. And I don't think that necessarily needs to be a bad thing. I think that can be a beautiful thing because getting together with other humans, asking some questions about existence, trying to see what kind of answers you can come up with in creating art, but together in person is like a really beautiful IRL activity to do where you connect with somebody, you grow as a person, you get to create a document that you then live with, that you then get to hold on to, you get to rewatch later to remember that like the life you've been living. So all these things are like why I make the movies the way I do and why I like think more people should make movies, not necessarily for other people to see, but for them to have the experience of making it because it is a beautiful like way to spend time. Making a movie is obviously difficult. But by sort of doing a lot of letting go, which is also kind of like a philosophy, like a life philosophy, like life is letting go. So you're letting go of what the end result is and you're just trying to be present in the moment of things. So like any obstacle is also an opportunity. That's why to say like, what was the biggest obstacle? The biggest obstacle was just that initial decision to being like, are we jumping off this cliff? We are? Okay, let's jump. And then we jump and now we're all falling together and we see what happens. What can we figure out? Can we build the plane before we hit the ground? So when I make films, I'm very much making it for myself, for my friends. I'm making it for the experience of making it, and then as I'm making all these decisions in post-production, I'm just continuously sort of following my creative intuition of like what is interesting to me, what I would like the audience to get out of it. In some ways, I kind of don't care. what I think would be nice is if they first didn't feel like their time was wasted, that they maybe saw some images that they appreciated seeing, that it provoked some thoughts they might want to think about, that they reflected on their life. Um, One of the deep, big themes of this film is about fear, and how fear can control us, and fear can make us do bad things, and how that can be, and how our relationship to trauma is all centered around fear, and I do think a lot of the bad things in the world come from fear. So if this film allows an audience member to reflect on that and how fear infects or influences their life, I think that might help them grow as a person and maybe thus help the world be a little bit healthier. So if that could be one of the things that an audience member gets out of it, that would be very cool. So this is not my first feature film. This is maybe my sixth narrative feature film. Um, and I have been making a movie a year for the last 5 years, all using this process. The first time I did this process with this low stakes and this no script and just this outline, shooting for maybe 9 or 10 days with just a couple friends, the experience was so fun that before I'd even edited the movie, just as we were leaving, leaving the place where we had been filming, I said that was too much fun to not just do again each year. So I have done that every year since. And the question is not what, it's just, or the question is not like, am I going to? It's just, oh, what's the 2024 movie going to be? What's the 2025 movie going to be? So if you liked this film that I made, there are other movies that I made that you can also find on the internet. That's where a lot of films end up eventually. Some of them are free on YouTube. Some of them are accessible on Amazon. Some of them I haven't even put on the internet yet, because the internet's a weird place and it often feels just like a giant waterfall that we're just throwing pennies into. But there definitely is prior work that you could go explore just through kind of Googling my name. It's always nice to get to watch a movie with real humans in real life in a room and then get to experience whatever their reactions are to it afterwards. I really value and appreciate those moments, because once the film just ends up on the internet and my proof that they watched it is a number increasing or like a review on Letterboxd, that is not as satisfying as like an actual human who I get to look into the eyes of. I really appreciate being here at the Mammoth Lakes Film Festival. It's a beautiful location to exist, to be, and to be around other people and artists as we all share our work. My name is Pete O's. I am the director of The True Beauty of Being Bitten by a Tick, and I look forward to seeing you at the Mammoth Lakes Film Festival.